From Craig Rolson in Europe, David Gerber in Brazil, and our editor-in-chief and publisher, Don Oshman, it's time for this week's Sunday Night Week in Review.
Good morning, good evening. It's Don Oshman, HideNet.com. I'm editor-in-chief and publisher of HideNet Market Reports, and it's time for another weekly edition of the Hide Market Week in Review, covering North America, Latin America, the United States, I just said North America, and This Week in Leather. Today is Sunday, September 14th. Craig is back in action after the European holidays. Craig Rolson, our European editor, and he rates all about Lineapel, what went on there, what didn't go on there. It basically was not a barn burner, but Craig delves into that, and you can read all about that in this week's European report. Also, Craig talked about Russia buying more from Brazil vis-a-vis the pending trade ban, or is it going to be a trade ban? This was much discussed in Lineapel, and supposedly something's supposed to happen October 1st. The jury's still out. Nobody knows for certain, but everybody's a little skittish. In fact, Russians were conspicuous by their absence at Milan, Lineapel in Milan, and more Asians seem to be there. On the European market, United Kingdom Irish ox heifers seem to be in balanced demand, but there's been a pickup in Chinese interest. European cows were fairly steady to the pre-Lineapel level, and the European bull price remained firm on continued auto demand. Every place they're buying automobiles, every place they're using hides suitable for automobiles, the prices are very, very firm. There's another issue vis-a-vis the Russian ban, potential or pending Russian ban on lamb and sheep markets, not only in Europe but all over the world, because especially with Turkey to Russia, there's a tremendous amount of business of a lot of products in our field going to Russia, plus foodstuffs and so on and so forth out of the EU. But the bottom line is what's going to happen, and if there is a ban, it's going to be a severe problem. We didn't talk about this in our reports this week, but I believe that, as it's always been the case, if there is a ban, if you can't ship hides and skins and Italian footwear into Russia because of the political situation, I would think where there's a will, there's a way. That somehow they'll get it in, but that's just my conjecture, and who knows. North America this week, natives and butts hit new record highs, primarily for automotive demand. Other steers, though, were very, very firm, and the supply still remains scant. Now the shortage compared to last year are down 6.9%, which is about 1.5 million hides, a little bit more than that, fewer hides. So the short supply continues. Regardless, the cow sector continues to languish. Part of that was because of competition from European hides, which had a favorable currency situation to sell into the Far East. But American cow hides, which are down about 20%, branded cow hides from last year, the price is also down 20%. So supply and demand, we talk about that in this week's report. Sales exceeded slaughter for the first time in a long time, although we had 1 day less slaughter during that reporting period because of the National Labor Day holiday. So packers mainly only killed 4 days instead of 5 days. So meanwhile, we sold more hides in America for export than we have in quite a while. There's a Lineapel report again from the American perspective, and a very interesting report how the CLIA, the Chinese Tanners Association, says their leather business is still growing in the first half of the year, albeit more slowly. Our forecast every week in the U.S. report, we forecast what we think is going to happen next week, and we've been brilliant of late. We're going to be wrong too, and we are wrong about 15% of the time, but we've been on a roll, and if you read our report, if you get a free trial to our report, you'll see what we think is going to happen next week. No guarantees, we're just right more often than we're wrong. Latin America this week, fresh and green prices stabilized at record highs. At least they didn't go up after week of seeing that. And one of the reasons the fresh green hides didn't go up anymore, because the Brazilian tanners who went to Lineapel were unable to get the $2.15 per kilo, per foot, they thought they were going to get, and conversations went on around $2, $2.10. And still business was not terrific. So I think the Brazilian, David Holes, our Latin American editor, writes that tanners who were optimistic about getting increased prices, Brazilian tanners who were optimistic about getting increased prices in Europe didn't get them. In Argentina, the market continues to be very firm and steady. And we have a report on Brazilian drop splits, which are now about $1.50 per kilo, depending on weight, and also Argentinian drop splits, which are give or take around $2.40 a kilo, depending on the average. This week in leather is a report by NPD, which is a respected national survey polling service, that said athletics led the back-to-school business. In other words, the August-September period, the July, August, September, footwear mostly sold was athletics. And also there's a good report on China's first half footwear sales, and those numbers were up. Also a very good report which came really out of Shanghai about the Hebei area industrial parks in Wenzhou, but in Xingji and all that area. So that's a very interesting thing, how they're going to be on stream. The question is when, and to solve their pollution problems. Also, there's a report on split prices in North America and Latin America that we talked about in our Latin American report. That about does it for this week. I want to thank everybody who approached me in everybody who approached me in Shanghai as I was walking and visiting various booths, who said, "Hey, I saw you on your video. I've seen your video. You look great. Great to see you. We enjoy the video." To those people, thank you very much. Tell your friends and relatives, and I said keep those cards and letters coming in. The main purpose of all this is for you to see what goes on every week in HideNet market reports. I can't tell you enough that it will behoove you to get a free trial subscription and then see for yourself from HideNet to see what they can help you make your own market decisions. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.